Hi, everyone. Welcome to Tech Talk, a podcast where Amit and I talk about various tech related topics. This week, we're going to talk about something very cool, and a lot of us are already familiar the smart vacuum cleaner, or a lot of us call it robot vacuum. Some of the known names are Roomba, and there are a few brands that are quite popular in this space. Now, when we talk about this kind of vacuum cleaners, you might think that that's not really an IT tech topic, but actually, a lot of the technology that goes behind it is actually very interesting and very related to IT and artificial intelligence, and also detecting obstacle detection and that kind of stuff. So I am actually very excited. I actually know less. Amit, I think, knows more about the topic. So I'm also, keen to find out more as well from Amit. So yeah, let's dive right into it. Amit, there are people who probably haven't come across a robot vacuum or a smart vacuum yet. What is a robot vacuum in a nutshell?
So, in a nutshell, let's start with how we clean our houses. In olden
Yes.
days, used to have a broom and a mop. So, broom used to broom away the dust, and then clean the dust in the house, and a mop to put some liquid and clean the surface, maybe some alcohol or something to just kill all the germs. And that's how we used to clean for many years. And then we started having vacuum cleaners, and those vacuum cleaners, those were wired. And with those vacuum cleaners, you could clean different types of surfaces because it had electricity, it had more power, so you could suck away dust more efficiently. And it used to collect that in a bag, and then you had to dispose it. And the problem with wired one was that you always had to keep it plugged. So you could not go from one place to another place without adjusting the plug. So then we had wireless vacuum cleaners, and then there are different vacuum cleaners, one that are on the floor and one that you can hold in your hand, etc. So you had all these different types of vacuum cleaners, but it all had one thing in common, and these are all the cleaning, different types of cleaning, and they are we have to clean it ourselves. So it's a manual process. Now, how do we automate that, or how do we outsource it? Now, that's the question. And that's where robot vacuums enter the picture. So, robot vacuum is something that does the vacuum cleaning by itself. So, you switch it on and you say, you don't say anything. It normally most of the vacuum cleaners now come up with an app. So, you can tell, okay, go start vacuum cleaning. And what it does is it starts cleaning, and it does on itself. Now, when you start cleaning, by yourself, what do you need? You need to know where you are, and you need to know what are your surroundings. So the navigation bit and the sensor bit comes into picture. But essentially, a robot vacuum is basically automating the cleaning task that we used to spend so much hours every day in our life. So that's essentially a robot vacuum.
Yeah, it's one of the things I noticed when you were just sort of like going through the journey of cleaning the floors in our house is that in every step basically we automated a little bit. In the beginning it was probably like, take a piece of cloth and then, sweep it by hand or whatever, and then it got a little bit easier. But then with the electric vacuum cleaner it was automated a little bit, but there were still a lot of manual processes. And I think literally just 10 years ago, one of the in any household, one of the thing that you would not look forward to doing is vacuuming the house. I mean, that's one thing that you can put off as long as you want. Well, no, you can't, but you would want to put off
Yes.
as long as you want, as long as you can. And obviously that probably was some sort of incentive for the engineers to sort of come out with bring out a like automated system, or make this process a little bit easier. I mean, it's something you can't escape. If you're living in a place, it will get eventually dirty or dusty, and there is absolutely a need for regular vacuum. There is no escape from that. But with the advent of technology now, we can just make this process not just a little bit easier, but by looking at, some of the
Whole lot
products in the
easier.
market today, a lot easier. And as you mentioned, you could tell it with, with your voice recognition, your
Yeah, you can control it. Because they are smart, so you can of course control it. But essentially, it is I mean, most of the vacuum cleaners, robot vacuum cleaners now have an app, and you can
yes,
control it
yes.
through an app, and
And you
you can
can also control it with your I'm trying to remember the name of
voice
Alexa
assistants,
and Google. Yes,
voice
voice
assistants.
assistants. Yes, yes. And on top of that, I think the most the smartest thing to do, I think a lot of people, that's what they do, is schedule it rather than being
Yes.
able to say anything. So that's like the pinnacle of automation, where you don't even have to remember to tell it, you just schedule it. And yeah, that's that I mean, basically, yeah, I was just listening to the journey of, as you mentioned, and it's just so interesting how it was incentivized to make it as automated as
Yes,
possible.
I think, I mean, most of the things, most of the gadgets in our house are now related to some kind of automation.
Yeah.
And the reason we picked robot vacuum is because, I mean, there are other things in the house as well. You have a smart refrigerator, you have a smart washing machine, and you have a smart dishwasher. But the thing about a robot vacuum is it has to go and cover the entire house. So it is far more
Yes.
complex than maybe a dishwasher or a fridge. I mean,
Yes.
it is still complex for a fridge, dishwasher, or a washing machine to be smart, but they are all static. They are not moving around the house. The
Yes.
one
Yes.
thing
They
that's
don't
going
have to have. Yeah, they don't have to have an awareness of itself. I mean, that's
exactly,
like another level of
exactly.
intelligence. Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
because you have babies in the house, you have pets in the house, you have hairs lying around, dust, you have pet poo. So you have so many things, and you have so many things scattered on the floor. You have your laptop, you have a router, you have so many, you have plants. It's not easy, and it is a complex thing. And how do you help a robot navigate through this complex surrounding? And imagine you have to do it from day one. So all robots
Yes.
come with a clean slate. They don't have no idea into which environment they are going to enter. So they need to have that
Yes.
ability to first map the whole environment. It's like us going to a remote location and trying to figure out where we are and then going somewhere and then able to come back. So,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
you have certain markers, you have certain visual markers like, okay, there is a house,
Mhm.
there is a lake, I saw a tree
Landmarks.
there,
Yeah.
some kind of landmark. Based on that, you
Yeah.
create a map in your head. Okay, I walked 20 minutes, so this came in this direction. That's how the sun is moving, and that's how you map the area, and then you figure out, okay, where you are in that map, and that's what a robot has to do. Each robot.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I mean, I gotta say, I've actually been an early adopter of this technology. I mean, it says how much I hate vacuuming, so I was looking for this kind of solution. So yeah, I mean, at the very beginning, when it was just about smart vacuum and robot, I bought it at that stage, and at that time, my experience wasn't all that, because I was kind of, I mean, obviously, that's what happens with, at the beginning stage of a new technology. And what I realized is that, yeah, there were situations where it actually got lost and it went so far, or some corner of the house, that I could not find where it is. And it lost my Bluetooth connection as well. So I was like, I spent like half an hour looking for it, and I thought, this is not the experience I want from a smart device. And then there was the other problem is, it can only, at the time, it could only clean selective stuff, like only dry dusty stuff. But if there was any wet something on the floor or on the carpet, sometimes it would identify carpet as an obstruction and you would go around it. But I do want the carpet to be also vacuumed. So all of these things, weaknesses, were there. So I was kind of reluctant. I was not sure that where this would go. But nowadays, I've seen some sort of like latest versions of these things. They can, I mean, it's amazing what they can do. They can even have like proper carpet treatment, where they sort of wet wash it, knowing that it's carpet, and then finding, as you mentioned, pet poo, or like maybe food droppings or whatever. Um, Sorry, drops of food. And yeah, it can identify and actually treat it as a wet a thing to clean up, rather than treating it as a dry dust and trying to suck it up. So yeah, it's so impressive nowadays what it can do.
I think we need to appreciate the bit about cleaning is it is very complex, and also the our houses are very complex to navigate, especially for a robot that has no idea which house it is going to. It could be a house, it could be a flat, it could be a multi-level story building, etc. So it has to have different types of sensors. It has to detect where a wall is, it has to detect where a door is, it has to detect where the staircases are so it doesn't fall off. So it has to do so many things. So you have different types of sensors. So the main type of sensor is obstacle detection. So are there any obstacles in the path? It could be a laptop lying around, a glass, a baby, a child, whatever. I mean, those are obstacles. A pet poo is an obstacle. It should not go through the pet poo and then just make a mess of itself, and then
Yes.
it becomes very dirty. So those are the obstacle detection. Then you have wall detection. The wall detection tells it, okay, this is the end of the room. Now it has to go along the wall and clean the edges, and then do some go somewhere else. So it has an idea of, okay, how big a size is, etc. It also needs to have some kind of measurement of how much distance it has traveled, odometry. So like tires or something, the wheels. So wheels have a certain circumference, and if you keep recording the movement of how much the wheel has moved, in what direction, then you can keep a track of how much distance it has traveled. So then it gets that knowledge as well. Then it has these cameras. So some have cameras, some have no cameras, some have laser detection, and some have a combination of laser detection and cameras. Now, what are
Mm.
these cameras or laser detection for? They are basically for navigation. So as I said, robot vacuum cleaners, no matter where they are, I mean wherever you buy them, they have to first learn the environment. And in order to learn the environment, what you do as a human being, you first venture out and then you start creating a map. I came this 10 uh, 10 meters ahead, I saw a stone. I went 20 meters ahead, I walked for 20 minutes, I saw a lake. I saw a mountain, I saw a hill, something like that. Similarly, a
Mhm.
robot has to do the navigation in its world, and it does that. So with the LiDAR technology, it throws a laser beam, so it's similar to radar. So you instead of sending sound beams and then waiting for it to come back, it sends light and it waits for it to come back, and then based on that, it detects what kind of object it is, how far is it, and it tries to create a map. And based on this map, it then navigates. And the advantage of a LiDAR is that it can work in darkness as well. So even if it is dark, so in the night when you're sleeping, you want the vacuum to go be on, it can still work. So that's the advantage of a LiDAR based system. But of course, LiDAR based system won't have image recognition because you're not capturing any images. You're just sending light, and based on the reflection and how much time it takes, you record, you map the environment. But there is no intelligence, as in we don't have a image like we are now watching this video. I'm looking at you, you're looking at me. You can see my shirt color is black, t-shirt color is black, you're wearing a red or pink shirt. So that's image recognition. So I can see your face, I can see you have a beard, I can see you're wearing this color shirt, I see you have some curtains. So I can get so much information. With LiDAR, I can't get all that information. So I need to have a camera. The problem with the camera is it needs light. Suppose you turn off your light, I can't see your face. I can't see what's there in the scene. So that is a limitation. But with camera, I can now see what I'm looking at, and if I can train the software with machine learning and image recognition, I can then intelligently say whether it's a human being, a curtain, a glass, a pet poo, a child, etc. And and suppose you want to bypass that and you want to like, okay, I want to have the best of both worlds. You put a LiDAR and you put a camera. So you get
Yes,
best of
yes.
both worlds. So these are the different types of sensors and navigation systems which a robot needs to have in order to navigate through its surroundings.
Yeah. It's very interesting because this reminds me of my thesis that I had. I think I was talking to you the other day. In my postgraduate diploma, I had a thesis where I had to sort of build an electric vehicle which would map a 2D
Yes,
plane
yeah, you were
in a
telling me.
room. And yeah, it was actually, it was not just similar. I think it was kind of exactly the same objective. The robot is left in a new place, unknown, and it needs to find wherever the obstructions are and then map the whole 2D plane. And interestingly enough, I used exactly that, the LiDAR technology, and I had some LiDAR sensors which would sort of, understand wherever there is obstruction. And there, as you said earlier as well, you're very right. There are complicated obstructions in a house, and you can't predict with some sort of repetitive rule, or, in this scenario. For example, one of the challenges that I faced was that what if there is a direction where the robot sort of sends the lidar signal and it shows there is no obstruction at all, but there are two large obstructions right next to each other with a bit of gap, and the lidar sensor send the signal just through that gap and thinks that there is no obstruction and tries to go through it, but the width of the robot itself, in the robot vacuum itself, is going to be no you know it's going to be too big to go through that gap. And what would you do in this kind of scenario? So that's one of the things I did, actually design an algorithm, and my professor was actually quite happy with that. So basically what I did is, it would uh, instead of sending one signal to see where there's obstruction right straight ahead, it would send a number of signals in a sort of in a circular pattern. It will rotate, say for example 2 degrees, and then send 5 signals. And then if it finds a gap between that, it will try to understand when that the try to get the arc of that gap.
Yeah,
So from the LiDAR sensor, we can see the distance of that obstruction from the robot. So we get the radius, and also we get the, if we get the arc starting point and this end point, then we could kind of, with reasonable accuracy, we could say the perimeter of that arc, so which would essentially be the distance between the two
wow,
obstructions.
wow, that is
And
interesting.
and yeah, so that way, and obviously the width of the robot is stored in the memory, so it can make a decision whether that obstruction is big enough for it to pass through or not. So yeah, there are this kind of, I mean, mine was a university thesis, so I'm sure in commercial projects there are a lot more sensors, as you mentioned, image recognition and lidar, and maybe a few others as well. And all of this information does give the robot a powerful sort of data
Yes,
set,
yes.
which it can utilize. And it doesn't have to have a server on board. It could just, because it's a smart device, it could just send it to the cloud server and get a very like complex calculation back, the result, the decision of a complex calculation back, and act as a very, very sophisticated AI device.
It's interesting because human beings, we learn in a similar way. We see something, we interact with it, and we learn from it, and then we see something else and we learn from that. So it's through this feedback loop we keep learning new things. With robots, you have fixed algorithms. In order for them to become intelligent, to learn simultaneously with the changing environment, they need to have an algorithm that is able to handle that. And that is what is happening with a lot of these smart devices in our houses at the moment. They are smart because they are learning through feedback, through experience, through okay, when do you turn off the lights? Which time of the day you turn on the lights? What time of the day and what temperature do you set normally? So it'll learn. And then, okay, what's the temperature outside? So based on that, what's the light? When does the sun set? When should I close the curtains, etc., etc. So these are all ways and mechanisms to learn things. And artificial intelligence is basically an algorithm which is helping the machines learn as they receive more and more information about their environment. Without us making decisions for them, they are making their own decisions in real time, just like human beings.
Yes, yes. And, with all the information that is in hand for them right now, they can make complex decisions. I mean, there is no reason why they couldn't. I mean, in my home, I have, the smart, the voice assistant controlling my air conditioner and my TV and a few things. And I also have a thermostat which is connected to the cloud in this way. And then if the thermostat temperature goes above a certain level, and it can also look at my GPS, looking at from my phone. And if I am in my room, then turn on the AC. So, it could be very, you could make a very complex set of rules, which would really make a big difference when you like, it would, I mean, you might think, oh, you're saving 10 seconds, but you're not just saving 10 seconds. You're kind of, um, moving away from these trivial things that you had to do, so
Yes,
you're kind of
yes,
freed up with to think interesting things. I mean, it doesn't have to be productive things, but you are happier thinking interesting things, so
yes.
because you don't have to,
Definitely,
yeah.
because I think these menial tasks they take a lot of time and energy. So
Mhm.
I mean, sometimes maybe you can clean something faster, but why do you want to
Mhm.
clean it? You can just sit back, relax, enjoy, and do your own stuff, and let the robots do their own thing for you.
Yes, and then there are some other implications as well. For example, if I'm lying in my bed and I feel a little warm, I could use the, I could turn on the fan, or the air conditioner. But now I don't feel like getting up and doing all of that. So what could happen is that I might actually decide not to get up. I mean, I'll do a balance, and I decide, what, I'm just not feeling like getting up right now. So what would happen? I'm actually more uncomfortable staying where I am, um, and that might have an effect, butterfly effects. Like that might have an effect. I might have a less good quality, lower quality sleep throughout the night, and then the next day I could be less productive. I mean, it could have so many things. That tiny decision, if that was the wrong decision. So, yeah, these things make a difference, and more often than not, they are positive differences.
Actually, because if you look at technology and its implications, a lot of times people think that it makes you lazy. But if you think the on the other side, like there are so many disabled people, what about them? I mean, suppose you don't have limbs, you can't see, you can't hear, you have mental health issues, you're depressed,
Mhm.
you are just paralyzed. Imagine with all this technology, and especially say if you the only thing you can do is speak with your voice, you can do so much. You can just tell Google, okay, do this, turn on the air conditioner. You don't have to go anywhere. You just tell someone to do it for you. It's an assistant for you on demand whenever you want it. You can tell the assistant, Google Assistant, okay, start the vacuum cleaner, clean the house. You don't have to worry about it. It makes life so much easier, and especially with houses that are growing big and with lots of people having deciding to have children. And or if you have family members in the house, it takes a lot of time in cleaning because you are cleaning constantly. And now if you have a robot vacuum, it can clean the house for you. And now with
Mhm.
some other with the recent robots, what is happening now is that they can charge themselves. So they
Mhm.
have a docking station. So suppose it knows that okay, it's going to run out of charge, so going to run out
and
of power, goes to the docking
and it
station,
also,
charges.
yeah, it also knows how far it is from the docking station,
Yes.
so it has enough battery to be able to get back there. And yeah,
And
it's
and
very.
and the latest one is you can empty the bin. So again, the problem
Mm,
with the vacuum cleaner is you have to empty it, clean it, because it doesn't have a lot of
yes,
storage, right? With all the
yes,
dust. So you have to constantly empty it. But now there are docking stations where it can charge and also empty the entire stuff that it has collected.
yes,
And
that was, yeah, that
it's
was when I saw this, that was so amazing. I mean, I was like, this is the final thing that
yes,
I would hate to do.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
got rid of
So
that.
it's like, okay, you take the bin out once a week. It's just like that now. So you get it, you let it clean twice or thrice a week, and then you take the bin out only once. You don't have to worry about taking the bin out every single time it cleans. So I think
Mhm.
that's a game changer. And you also mentioned that when you bought a vacuum cleaner, it used to randomly navigate. Those were actually the initial days where the vacuum cleaners were not that intelligent, or they didn't have enough sensors
Mhm.
to think, okay,
Yes.
where they are, how to navigate. So they were randomly doing those motion, and because of that, they were doing repetitive. So some areas they would clean again and again, and some areas they would miss.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I mean, at the time, the one I had was literally just bump into things. It's not gonna have anything. It's just, giving up and just bump into things. If it bumps in, then rotate 45 degrees and then try again. But that doesn't always work very well.
So now with the latest ones, so I was looking at some videos. The latest ones you can define zones. So suppose there is a child playing, you can define a zone that, okay, don't go near the child. So the robot knows that, okay, when I reach this particular coordinate, I should not go beyond it. So that's
Hmm.
it. So it takes maybe 1 or 2 cycles to map the room, depending upon which type of navigation technology. So maybe one cycle, clean cycle, or two clean cycles to map the entire house or the floor or maybe a room.
Hmm.
And then based on that, you can define a zone, because then it has a map of that room in its software. And with that knowledge, you can define the zone through the mobile app. And based on that, it knows that, okay, today I need to clean this area, but because there is a zone defined, I should not go there, or I should not
Hmm.
cross that zone. So it's a wall, but it's an invisible wall only in its software to tell not to go beyond this coordinate. So suppose you have something important, say a laptop lying on the floor. You don't want to keep pushing the laptop, right?
Yeah.
So you define a zone and then it just doesn't go there.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, it takes a few months or years to sort of for the technology to catch up, and once it does, it's just so powerful, and it definitely,
It is.
change.
I was initially apprehensive. I have I have a house which is 2 stories. So I was quite apprehensive, like, why should I use it? It won't go under the bed. But most of the robot vacuums are circular in shape, and they are not that high. So they are about maybe what in terms of they might be the size of a glass,
Mm-hmm.
drinking glass. So maybe that thick, maybe thinner than that. So they can go under the bed, they can go under the sofa, and they can clean the edges. And sometimes they can clean even better, and you don't have to worry about it. So now I'm thinking, okay, now is the time where I think it's a good time to buy a vacuum cleaner, which is a robot vacuum cleaner, because I'm about to have our first child. So I just want to share this information with our audience as well. So me and my wife, we are going to have our first child, and everyone keeps saying that life is going to be really different and it's going to change for the good, I hope. But it also means that I'll not be able to have enough time to do all the other household chores. So it means this is the right time to invest in something that is smart, that can take away the hassle of cleaning every time something has been dropped. So when my child grows up, I can just ask the robot vacuum cleaner to just go there, clean it, and I don't have to pick up. I can still spend time with my child rather than worrying about, okay, who will clean that? When will they clean it? Things like that.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, that's this actually brings me to thinking about the opportunity cost of cleaning. Now, obviously, with the big change in your life in future, the cleaning time, there is opportunity cost that you could have spent it with your child. So yeah, I mean, there's so many meaningful, positive things that this can bring. It's when you start thinking about it, you realize how big it
Exactly.
is.
And these vacuum cleaners are good. I mean, some of the ones from iRobot, they have different types of, so they have like anti-hair stuck technology, so the hair doesn't get stuck in the rollers. So it's not just iRobot, there is Eufy, there is RoboVac, there are many other companies in the mix now that are creating these powerful robot vacuums and with different technologies of navigation.
Mhm.
And when remember I was telling you about this cameras. So with AI, you can now detect so many other things. So it's incredible that these companies are experimenting and investing so much of their time, money, and effort into building a product that is actually very, very useful, and it adds so much value to your life because you don't have to worry about cleaning anymore.
Yeah, yeah, that is certainly the dream, and or utopia if you'd like. Yeah, I think everything else I'm okay with doing, but if you didn't have to clean, I mean, I don't know what else could be, a better lifestyle than that.
Yeah, and
Uh,
I used to think that okay, I have a two-story house, two-story house, so it'll be difficult because then I'll have to move the robot up and down. But now that I think I should still get it because it has sensors to detect. Okay, there is no floor beneath me. I should not go forward. So it'll detect
yeah.
that. It'll not go. It'll not drop on its own. The technology is now
Mhm.
that stage where it won't drop off. It
Uh-huh.
has sensors and it has powerful suction as well. And most of these robot vacuums, they are wireless. I mean, not most. They all are wireless. They're not
Yeah,
running through cords. So all the
yeah,
robot vacuums are wireless, which is good. They operate on their own. They have their own charging station. They have their own bin station where they can empty the dirt. So I think this is, and most of them have an app, so you can control it. Some cheap ones may or may not have an app, but the expensive ones definitely do. So yeah, I think this is a good time to invest in something that can save a lot of your time and energy and effort. And it need not be that okay, because I have a hard floor, I should not get it, or I have a carpet, I should not get it, or I have a wooden floor, I should not get it. Most of these vacuum cleaners are now tested on different types of surfaces. So you can the same vacuum cleaner without the other problem with conventional vacuum cleaners is you have to change the brush depending upon the kind of surface you're cleaning. With these vacuum cleaners, you don't have to even bother about changing the brush. It'll just go and clean on any surface. It could be hard floor like a stone. It could be wood. It could be laminate. It could be even carpet. So yeah, so I think it's a good
that is the
investment.
dream. That is the dream, fully automated. I mean, it can handle all kinds of things, and it can empty itself, it can charge itself, and it's wireless. I mean, that is, I mean, I can't tell you how excited that makes me. Being in our midlives, these things are what excites me.
I think I mean this is out of context about this topic, but when we think about computers and we think about automation, a lot of times people have this apprehension that okay, what will the computer once they become self-aware, what will they do with human beings? And we always worry about okay, AI will destroy humanity, AI will do this, but we never think about augmentation. Like how are they
Yes.
augmenting our reality? How they enhancing everything that we do? Technology,
Hmm.
smartphones have just changed our lives. Made us addictive to it, but if you use it smartly, they are so useful. With the
Yes.
smartphone, I can navigate, I can do so many things, I can control so many different types of devices. I have so much information. I don't have to carry a map, I don't have to carry a torch, I don't have to carry a radio, I don't have to carry an iPod. It's all one device. So
Yes.
it's the technology has made your life so simple. So we should actually embrace it. And I was watching this episode from Foundation the other day. It's on Apple TV, and a woman, Gail Donick, the name of the character, she's asking the computer where she is, but the computer is not authorized to tell her. So she is trying to figure out through maths how to navigate what's the destination through projection. And what she's trying to do is okay, telling the computer okay, do the calculation for me. I don't want to do it, you do it. I'll tell you what to do. So it's like saying, okay, draw a line, now project 90-degree, and then turn it 45-degree, and then draw cone around that, and then what's there at the center of the cone? Tell me that. So that hard work, that calculation, you outsource it, but you're still telling the computer what to do and how to do it. So I think that's a very good example of how technology can enhance learning.
Yes, that is a very good point because yeah, a lot of the times we're just scared of what would, the AI is going to take over. But they are augmenting, and the journey, the growth they're having, slowly and over a period of time. It's not like a sudden day tomorrow, and it's just self-aware
Yeah,
and everything.
yeah, yeah,
No, it's going to be a slow process with a gradual adoption with humans, and it would keep augmenting us. So at the end of the day, even when the first AI does become self-aware, it might be half human, half robot to begin with, because humans have integrated themselves so much. So
yes,
yeah, I
definitely.
mean, yeah, we don't know how it's going to be, but right now we could say that the robot vacuum is kind of reached, the my imagination to begin.
Yes.
I mean, hopefully it didn't reach the peak of the developers' imagination, so they can keep developing it. But yeah, I couldn't think of anything else that can be added. I think, obviously, there is a certain point where the technology reaches its sort of financially viable peak, and then it starts to come down in prices. But I think right now it's still quite pricey
It is.
for a regular user. But hopefully now, all of these newest, best, really good practical technologies would start to come down in prices, so it could become an actual household item.
Definitely, definitely, and I think that's where the game will change, because I don't know what the future could be like for a robot vacuum. Maybe it will have legs and it'll be just like the Boston Dynamics robot dog. It can just go
Yeah.
from one floor
I
to another
mean,
floor by
I
itself.
mean, I think just thinking about it right now, like off the top of my head, I think another way, the next step of enhancing this is that this is a robot that has all the capabilities of moving around the whole of the house and knowing where everything is. So it could easily have an add-on where, as you mentioned, it's right now is the height of a drinking glass, or I don't know, 3 or 4 inches or whatever, but it could be a little bit higher. Maybe it's carrying around a portable fridge with cans of drinks in it, or maybe it's sending a message to different rooms. Maybe the parents have cooked dinner and the dinner is ready. Maybe it's going and telling the children in their rooms that, oh, dinner is ready, or some sort of message. Or it could have a little bit higher add-on which could serve a number of other purposes, because it's already doing it already has the
Yes.
hardware to sort of map and go around.
I think, yeah, you are right. I mean, it's not that high. So if you can build on top of something, it can do the navigation, do the cleaning, and also carry stuff, weights, things around. And I think once we crack the battery technology part, where we have sufficient power delivery and in a very compact space, I think that will revolutionize a lot of these smart devices, because then you can have a device charged for an entire week or even an entire month, and you don't have to worry about recharging them constantly. And because they are so powerful and they're so energy dense, it means you can lift heavy weights, you can do a lot of other things, and you can keep running. So yeah, it's exciting future.
It is definitely a space to watch out for. But yeah, this has been a really interesting talk. To be honest, I've learned a lot, and also it was fun to talk about all of
Yes, same.
these aspects around this robot vacuum. So yeah, our audience, if you guys have any questions or any other topics that you would like us to cover, please do let us know. Our contact details are there in the description. So definitely do reach out, and hopefully we will again come back to your playlist next week.
Yes, thank you so much everyone for listening and tuning in. What we'll do is we'll share the links of how these robot vacuums work. We will also share like what are the top vacuum cleaners you could buy, and I mean, just select one and see if you fancy anyone. You can go for a cheap one as well, but of course remember that cheap one will of course have cheap sensors, so it may not be that accurate. It'll still do the job, but it'll not be that accurate. So you bear that in mind. So the price that you pay is for the navigation, for the smart features, etc. Otherwise, I think even a cheap one is as good as a smart, expensive one. So go for that. And yes, please let us know what topics you want to hear. We normally select topics based on the current trends. and what we also fancy, because we both love technology, and that's why we host this podcast. So we want to hear from you guys what topics you want us to cover, and we'll try to learn about it and talk about it in this wonderful session of ours. So thank you so much
Yeah.
again for listening.
Thank you very much, guys. See you next week.
See you next week. Bye.
Bye.